All right, we are here talking New England Patriots football on the Ourlads Football Network, the Ourlads Football YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Greg DePalma, and for the first time, we have a new insider to the club. We're happy to be joined by. Usually, I make sure I do this before the show, but we were trying to put everything together. We had some technical difficulties, and so I didn't get Mike's pronunciation, so I'm going to guess it. So is it debate?
Actually, right on the money. Technically, my listeners may be listening to this right now, and they're saying, "Oh, you always introduce yourself as Mike Debate." Well, technically, both are correct. You're actually 100% correct in terms of the actual pronunciation of the name. Years ago, my grandfather in Rhode Island, actually, I should say my great grandfather, his brother ran for state senate, and he wanted to win the election. Thought that maybe an ethnic name may be a little bit challenging, even in an Italian-dominated state like Rhode Island. Still believe that there was still that fear, so he Americanized the pronunciation to debate, and to this day, that's still how a lot of people do know it. I've tried to embrace it, embrace debate, go back and forth, things of that nature. There are other ways you can colloquialize that, but this is a family show. We're not going there. Bottom line, no, all kidding aside, you're 100% correct. My family in Italy would definitely give you one of these right now in accordance. So,
well, look at my last name.
I
so
see
if
it.
anybody's going to guess it correctly, it's going to be a fellow Italian, wouldn't it be? So there you go. We got a De Palma and a Diabate. So here we are talking New England Patriots football. So before we get on with this, anytime we have somebody new, we just like to get their background. So let's go ahead and do that. Mike, you're with the Locked On Patriots podcast, and you also tell me a little bit more, because I was checking out your X account. I'm going to pop that up on the screen right now, because I know we found you through your Locked On podcast account, but I'm going to pop up. This is your personal account here, and you got a bunch of stuff here. So tell me, what is it that you do on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I'm the host of the Locked On Patriots podcast. You can catch us each and every day, Monday through Friday. Now that it's the quote-unquote off-season, Greg, but it's the hot stove season. It's definitely a lot of fun. We'll be doing multiple shows per week, sometimes even per day as news breaks. But that's my primary vehicle of being able to bring coverage to Patriots fans. Also cover the Patriots in written work for Athlon Sports, Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. And I've covered the Patriots now on and off for the last, few years, really exclusively for the past 5.5 years. That's when I officially became a credentialed member of the media with New England, and also, took over as host of the Locked On Patriots podcast from a very dear friend of mine who any Patriots fan knows his work. The great Mark Schofield from SB Nation was my predecessor and set a wonderful table for me at Locked On, and it's been a great ride. Phenomenal network, and watching them grow and really watching them evolve throughout the past few years has been something that's really prideful for me to be a part of. So that's kind of my journey. I have covered the NFL since 2016. Also, I've been a beat writer for the Los Angeles Chargers for Yahoo Sports and for a company called Cover 32, which is no longer in existence. And I've also covered the NFL as an entity since that time, and continue to do so right through the present day. So, football in my bloodstream, no question about it. And I've enjoyed every moment of being a part of this for the past 9 years.
And tell me, so what is Pat's Country?
Pat's Country is the primary website where you can find Patriots coverage exclusively on Athlon. Athlon has pages for all 32 NFL teams.
Okay.
Pat's Country is the Patriots version, but
Cool.
no matter which team you are, no matter which a fan of a team you are, you'll find a spot on there as well. Our X account right now is currently in flux, so unfortunately you won't see a whole lot of updated info there. But if you go to Patriots Country, if you go to Athlon Sports/Patriots, you'll find all the information that you're there, and the great writers that provide all the coverage that you need for that site. And of course, again, if you're looking into NFL drafts or things of that nature, all of these sites are available at that point. So definitely you can kind of scroll through and see what's what and what is available through Athlon. Like I said, you can always catch my my most up to date coverage on Locked On Patriots.
Awesome. All right, there you go. So we've got the lowdown on Mike, and let's go ahead and get started. We are going to kick off. There's a lot to talk about, Mike, especially since I haven't had an insider for a couple of years. So really trying to find stuff out. I was going over my research for the show, and anytime you have a bad team that season, there's usually a lot of stuff going to happen. A lot of stuff, especially with a young team. And it's just amazing. I mean, the offensive line, wow. That's all I can say. So we have a lot to learn. So first of all, Bo, let's start out with the coaching situation. That's the biggest news, as you mentioned. So Mayo's out, and they're looking for a coach. Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson seem like the two biggest names. And I said this on one of my shows the other day, if you can get an interview with Ben Johnson, you are really doing well. You are in that rarefied number of teams that he is, because this guy has been patient, he's selective, and it doesn't mean he's going to get the job. But all I can say is if I'm a Patriot fan and I get the choice between Vrabel and Ben Johnson, I'm going to be happy no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah, I think Patriots fans will as well, Greg. Look, for whatever reason, and there were multiple reasons why it didn't work with Gerard Mayo this season, 2024 in New England. What New England wants to do this time around is prioritize innovation and prioritize experience. Now, one of these candidates on one side, one of these candidates on the other side definitely drives that a little bit more. Mike Vrabel's got the experience. He's been a head coach in this league. He's played up here in New England, so he knows the expectations of the fan base and of the Krafts as a family and as an ownership group. But Ben Johnson is one of the most innovative play callers that I've seen come down the pike in quite some time. That Lions offense, which was not known as a juggernaut prior to the 3 years ago when he took the reins of that offense in Detroit, he has them ranked in the top 5 consistently among all offensive categories. That's not a mistake. That's not happenstance. That's by design. This guy continues to get the best out of his players. He can use the offensive line to his advantage. The playmakers around Jared Goff continuously get better. And you've seen Jared emerge and evolve as a quarterback. And even to the point where I believe he's a better quarterback now than he was under Sean McVay, than in Los Angeles with the Rams. And he took them to a Super Bowl, So, I mean, this is a very good feather in the cap for Ben Johnson in terms, and for the Patriots, in terms of being able to get an interview with Ben Johnson, like you said. I don't think New England makes a wrong decision here. I really do believe that if they want to move forward toward an innovative offense, which is where the NFL seems to be headed, Ben's the guy. If they can convince him New England is the place, that could be a great marriage made in heaven. But on the opposite side, if Mike Vrabel is the guy that you want to bring a little discipline back to this organization, you want to bring experience, he's a guy that will definitely do it. And I think Mike learned enough from his first time around in Tennessee. Surround yourself with the right people and good things can happen. So I really do believe that no matter which decision the Patriots make here out of either one of these candidates, they're looking at onward and upward in New England. And it's been a long time since I think Patriots fans have felt that way.
And we haven't heard any of this yet, but if I was the decision maker and Vrabel was in my office, I think the defining, like if I knew I could get either guy, the defining factor in my decision would be, who's your OC going to be?
Right.
That would be my, because if I don't like the answer to the question, I'm hiring Ben Johnson. Right. Because you've got Drake May. That's the kid's got to develop. The kid, that's a must. And I'm not sure he's going to develop under Mike Vrabel unless he hires the right guys to coach with him. So that's got to be a big deal. Now, I don't know if there's anybody out there on the Mike Vrabel tree or if there's anyone out there in the rumor mill, but I would think that would have to be a big one when they make that decision.
Yeah, I think that is right on the money, Greg, without any question. And you look at the success that Mike had in his early days when he came in with the Tennessee Titans. Who was his offensive coordinator? Arthur Smith did a tremendous job. And and you look at, obviously you look at LaFleur, and the job that he was able to do, you're right on the money. These guys were able to parlay that type of success into success at a head coaching position. Yeah. So, it gives you so much. in terms of being able to, make the right moves and make the moves that you need to make, and, give yourself an opportunity to succeed. When Mike struggled in his areas with Tennessee, it was because he didn't have the talent, the coaching talent around him to be able to pull himself through some of the mistakes that a young coach is going to make. Second time around, you always have hindsight being 2020, and I think that's going to be Mike's big selling point here. I've learned my lesson. I'm going to turn this thing around. You consistently hear the name Josh McDaniels thrown around. I'm not sure if that's going to be an option, but at the same time, people will scoff at Josh's ability to be a head coach. I fully support that, by the way, but I don't think you can argue with the guy's legacy as an OC here in New England, and the job that he's done with young quarterbacks brought Mac Jones to a Pro Bowl selection in his rookie
That's
season.
true.
Mac completely fell off the cliff, so to speak, and I hate to say it so bluntly,
Yeah.
but it really is no other way to say it, without Josh's guidance and his leadership. So he could be someone that could end up helping to move this Patriots team forward. Wouldn't shock me to see Alex Van Pelt hang around potentially as a quarterbacks coach. I think his days as a coordinator are over here in New England, but if he would be willing to accept a lesser role, he's developed a very good relationship with Drake. So if they want to maintain a little bit of continuity and try to keep that in the room, that may be an option as well. If I'm Mike Vrabel and I'm answering that question that you asked just a few moments ago,
Sure.
in terms of who's your OC, that could be something that could give him a leg up on the competition as well. But again, if it's the offensive side of the ball, Ben Johnson definitely checks all of the boxes. He's the guy. You really don't need anyone else around him. Maybe at that point you put him on his defense about defense, but offensively, I think he has you covered with every step of the way.
All right, excellent. By the way, Elliot Wolf, and it's funny because we have it here. Where is it? Here's I'm going to bring up the Patriots depth chart here at our lads, and we've got this little de facto by Elliot Wolf's name. So bottom line is Elliot, is he like the day-to-day general manager?
Right now, he is the day-to-day general manager. He is the guy right now that is still running. The executive vice president of player personnel is his exact title, but he's running the show right now. But I will say this, when your coaching staff has the type of turnover that the Patriots have just given in terms of being able to, in terms of removing your head coach, I think every position right now on this staff, including Elliot Wolf, is fluid. And I think because there's a reason for that. The reason is when a new coach comes in, you want to make sure that you have a synergistic type of relationship with your general manager. It's so important in today's modern NFL. And even if two guys could coexist years ago and maybe not see eye to eye, but really kind of see eye to eye at the best thing, I think there needs to be more of a working relationship there. And you want to make sure your coach is working with someone he's comfortable with. Now, Ben tends to be a little bit more of an easier personality to get along with than Mike. So Mike may have some very strong feelings on who he wants to work with. But if I'm Elliot Wolf, I'm trying to sell the fact that I've been in this room before. I've got a good grading system when it comes to the NFL draft. Didn't have such great luck with it last year, but now we've got a year under our belt. We can utilize this to continue to move forward. If you convince enough people, especially the guys that are interviewing for this job, yeah, I think you might see him hang around. If not, I'd be very cautious. And if I were a Patriots fan or a non-Patriots fan, keep a sharp eye on that general manager's seat once this whole draft cycle and free agency cycle has waned.
Okay.
A lot of that could be a telltale factor. So yeah, right now Elliot Wolf is still in place. Robert Kraft has said he would like him to remain there, but as always, anything and everything is subject to change.
Yeah, some people believe that it's possible if where Ben Johnson goes, that if a team needs a general manager, then Agnew, the assistant GM, is somebody that might want an opportunity to be the man. So that could be something. And you mentioned about not having a good draft last year. Look, I know they weren't first-round wide receivers, but that's like the running joke with the Patriots is they can't find a receiver in the draft. Usually it's the first round. And then also the draft move. This must have been a big kind of talking point by the fans this season, watching McConkey develop versus the way that Polk struggled. Was that pretty loud every time McConkey started making plays and every time Polk dropped a pass?
Yeah, I think everything, especially everything about that game just a couple of weeks ago in Foxborough, where the Patriots were essentially handed it to them by the Los Angeles Chargers, 40-7. And look, I say this with every bit of reverence for the Chargers. I covered them for a number of years. That organization was phenomenal to me during my time covering that team. But this is not a world beater type. It's not a world beater type team. The Patriots should have been able to give them a better game than 40
Yeah.
to 7. And really, I think that final score didn't even indicate how much of a blowout that truly was. Every time Ladd hit a route, every time he made a catch, separated from a receiver, you almost felt like there was maybe a look up at the owner's box to say, yeah, you really wanted to trade out of that position to get Jalen. Look what happened. You know, you could have been there, you could have got me, but that was the hand that essentially that they were dealt. But you're right. There is a aura about the New England Patriots there that they're just cursed when it comes to drafting early round talent at the wide receiver position, and their record has been egregious. I can't argue
Yeah.
the opposite, that it has not been. I don't know what it is about specifically drafting receivers that gives the Patriots a lot of fits. Up until last year, you could point to Bill Belichick and say, okay, well, that's his kryptonite. He's pretty good with everything else, but he can't find a receiver in the draft. Bill wasn't in the room last year, and they still weren't able to bring home the type of talent Drake May needed around him this year. So um, maybe there's a sophomore ascension for one of these guys, for either Jalen Polk or Javon Baker.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think you look at this wide receiver core, it's among the worst in the league when it comes to on paper talent. That's an area they have to address. If they're not
Yep.
going to address it early in the draft this year, you got to take that boatload of cash that they've got available in salary cap space and throw it at someone that's going to be able to come in and give him a reliable target and someone that the defense has to focus on. Because right now, the Patriots do not have anyone on this roster that a defense has to fear, and that's a problem.
Yeah, we're going to go over. I'm going to get your list of team needs for the offseason in a little bit. Let's move on to free agency now. Talk a little bit about players who you think might even also get cut to open up some cap space, even though the Patriots don't need any right now. They have the most money to spend in the league, right around 123 million. So they're flush with cash. And as you said, finding a wide receiver is going to be important. And we'll go over that in a minute. But as far as on the team, there's not a whole lot of players that it looks like the Patriots have to worry about re-signing. Matter of fact, it looks like Jonathan Jones, the corner, is really the only guy who really makes anything substantial or close to it. That is a decent player. Would that be the case?
I would say Jonathan Jones and Dietrich Wise Jr. Is another
Dietrich
that's
Wise,
up
okay.
for free agency this year. Dietrich has been a team captain for a number of years. Believe it or not, Dietrich was actually the first player that I interviewed when I finally got accepted into the Patriots beat. He was a rookie that season. So I've kind of watched him evolve into the player he's become and to the young man he's become as well. And he's not only one of the Patriots, community award winners each and every year, but someone that is so well respected in that locker room. So if Dietrich has decided that this is going to be his final season in New England and he wants to try to chase a bigger paycheck elsewhere, I don't necessarily know if New England's going to dig deep to keep him around. I think what they'd like to do is get younger at the edge and find, someone that is going to be capable of getting after the quarterback on each and every down. Dietrich is a little bit more of a versatile weapon in that regard. But I'd love to see him back. Selfishly, I would love to see him back, and I know a lot of Patriots fans would too. He's developed that pretty good synergy with them. But Jonathan right now is a player that 2 years ago I would have told you should have been a captain and should have been a guy that they locked up long term. Jonathan started to look a little long in the tooth this year in that perimeter. He's very good in the slot. And if the Patriots have decided that Marcus Jones, for any reason, is not going to be their slot weapon, I could see the Pats trying to coax Jonathan back in here for a year or two to man the slot corner. But if Marcus is their guy and they're talking about a perimeter corner, yeah, you're probably looking at Jonathan moving on
Okay.
and going to another team as well, because I think he'll be offered more money elsewhere than the Patriots will be willing to retain him. And quite honestly, his resume kind of warrants that. And I do believe he's earned that opportunity to go out there and do it. But, you're looking at a lot of players right now that the Patriots will look at. They'll give a strong look to some guys that they may want back. Austin Hooper at the tight end position, I think, is someone I would look at. He had a very good working relationship with Hunter Henry, and I know it's someone Drake May trusts, so that's always important.
Yep.
Alex Austin at the cornerback position, I thought was very good for this team when they needed a guy off the bench to come in, give you meaningful minutes. Christian Ellis at the linebacker position is someone I would also
Yeah,
take a
right.
look at. Great special teams acumen, but always found his way into making plays when they needed to be made. And these are the types of guys that the Patriots need to keep in-house. The last on my list that I would say I would definitely do what I can to maintain is Daniel Aquale. Daniel is not a household name, but at the interior defensive line, the Patriots lack some toughness and some experience. Daniel was injured a lot this year. Really, I think struggled to kind of give you the type of performance he needed to. But when he's healthy, very smart football players. So that's an under the radar type signing that could end up paying dividends for the Pats, especially if they want to get younger. They need experienced guys that can tutor these guys, these younger players. Daniel is certainly one of them.
Yeah, Ellis, at that name, boy, there's a lot of Ellises that have played and are playing in the NFL. But he had a breakout season for the Patriots. He's a restricted free agent, so that's good. Patriots have all the money in the world, as I said, so he should not be a problem bringing back.
Right.
You mentioned Wise as well, and the age of Jones is significant. How about Hawkins? He's a free agent. Is that a guy that, if you want to bring back a veteran and he's on the cheap, which he should be, bring him back? Is that just not a big deal?
Yeah, I think that Jalen is someone I would definitely bring back for a certain price. I do believe that he may get a higher offer elsewhere
Oh,
because
okay.
the way he plays the safety position, he's physical, he's capable of playing either the strong or the free, and he's someone that is, I think, sought after enough. That type of player is sought after enough. You can't find that necessarily in the draft. Guys that can come in and be a plug and play, usually defensive backs coming out of college, with the rare exception of a few that come in that are just, the Midas touch. They usually have to be groomed into a certain role. Jalen is someone that still has enough youth to be able to give you significant minutes, and those legs can withstand an awful lot. But at the same time, I think there's still something to be said about his ability to just be a guy that you can play anywhere. So some team is probably going to look at him, covet him, look at the season that he had, considering the team he was on, and say, yeah, this is a guy that can really help us move forward. But if the price is right, yeah, I think the Patriots should be very interested in bringing back Jalen Hawkins.
Okay, now, are there any players that the Patriots can let go to save money? Once again, they have a lot of it, but still, money's money. And I'm going to throw out 6 names for you. I went through the contracts and guys that you could save some money on, and that I don't know whether or not you believe that they might think about cutting them. Kendrick Bourne.
It pains me to say this because personally, I think Kendrick is one of the great guys in that locker room, takes accountability, and I love his game. I really do. When he's on, he's an electric player to watch, but there is a cap savings that could be had if the Patriots want to get younger at this position, and they're trying to kind of revamp what this wide receiver core could be. Yeah, I could see them letting go of Kendrick at this point. So I would probably say more likely than not that he will be playing his football elsewhere next year. But again, that's just my opinion right now. I'd like to see him back.
Antonio Gibson.
Gibson is a guy that I would do whatever I could to bring back. I think he has proven himself to be a worthy third down representative for the New England Patriots. This is a guy that can really make things happen. He's an excellent receiver out of the backfield, but he's also proven that when Ramondre Stevenson is having difficulty, and Ramondre did have difficulty this year, he can be a solid runner on early downs as well. Knew the system well, adapted to it well. Even if the Patriots are going to go in a slightly different direction in terms of style, maybe they're not going to go as outside zone heavy. I still think Antonio Gibson is a guy that I would do everything to keep. So yeah, I loved what I saw from him this year. One of the few bright spots.
So no reason to ask Gibson. And look, they could always restructure his contract, but at this point, he's a very underrated player. And why not? You need the veterans, and sounds like a player there's no reason to screw around with his contract. A couple other players, and look, speaking of veterans, how about David Andrews? Because he was injured last year. He's getting up there in age. You can make some savings, but he still seems to be playing pretty well. So it's just a guy that just, at this point, you just keep letting him play with this organization until he decides to retire.
Yeah, I think David has earned that right. And I think when you're looking at what the New England Patriots are right now, they're more than just a player or two away from
Yep.
contending for a division title or even contending for a playoff spot at this point, Greg. I think what they're looking for is improvement. They're looking for growth. And what David Andrews brings to the table is invaluable in that role. He is the guy that everybody stops and listens to in that locker room. He is kind of the calming force when you need that, but he's also the motivating force when that needs to happen as well. He's not always a vocal leader. He leads a lot more by example, but when he needs to be vocal, he is. And to me, I think that's worth so much more than cutting him loose and getting some, cap savings or not resigning him
Yeah.
or, retaining some sort of financial flexibility or the roster spot. What David brings to the table is far more valuable, in my opinion, especially for a team that right now doesn't have an identity and is struggling to find one. David Andrews is the guy that can help you do it.
Yeah, it's not like the team is trying to save every penny and
Yeah,
sorry, but we just nothing we can do. Far from it. And I mean, he's got the connection like no other player on the team with the quarterback, and
right.
that's so important. So yeah, I agree. What about Bentley?
Juwan Bentley, I know there are reasons why, financial reasons why the Patriots would even entertain the thought. But you look at what happened to that run defense this year, Greg. This is a team that went from number 9 overall in DVOA overall defense, and they regressed to the bottom of the barrel in 2024. Now, some of that was because coaches that were there in 2023 were no longer there this year, and they regressed because of that. But a lot of the reasons why this team went from being a top 4 defensive team in the league when it came to defending the run to, again, bottom of the barrel was because Juwan Bentley was not in the middle of that defense. He's so important to having those front 7 set and get ready to be able to defend the run and also being able to direct traffic and have those defensive backs come up and help out when they need to play closer to the line of scrimmage. Juwan Bentley is that glue that holds that together. So I think
Okay.
he proved his worth this year. Again, you want to be very careful about cutting guys loose or cutting ties with players that simply either you feel maybe a little past their prime. I think what they bring to you in terms of experience is far more valuable than simply just overturning the roster. My guess is either Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson is going to know that value. I don't expect Juwan Bentley to go anywhere.
And a couple other linebackers who have been productive, but again, you could save money if you want to, and that
Mm,
would be Anthony Jennings and Taki Taki.
mm,
Are again, you could save money with these guys. Taki Taki really seems like he didn't have as good as the season the previous two, but he has played well for the Patriots.
mm-hmm.
So are these guys okay?
Yeah, I mean, Taki Taki, I think came in. That was, and by Sion's only, by his own words, said that he came in basically because of his familiarity with Elliott Wolf and their time together in Cleveland and a relationship and a synergy he developed there. I think it's going to be very interesting to see who comes in here in New England. If Elliott is still in a primarily authoritative role here, then I think you'll see Sione take his rightful spot because he does bring you some sideline to sideline speed that you don't necessarily see with these linebackers. And he brings a toughness on special teams as well. So he's someone I'd keep an eye on. But if a coach comes in and they're bringing in their own regime,
Yep.
he could end up being on the cutting room floor. Anthony, I think you could go either way on. He had a tremendous year in 2023 and really showed, I think, the type of growth that you want to see in a linebacker when it comes to being able to get after the passer or drop back and be able to assist in run defense. He plays the middle very well. He had moments this year where he looked like he was that guy again, and then he had moments this year where he looked like he had regressed. So I would take a wait and see approach when it comes to Anthony Jennings. Have him come into camp. Let's see what he looks like. Mini camp is going to be a good chance to evaluate him. Take a look at him in the first couple of weeks of camp, and then I think you'll know more about whether Anthony could end up on the cutting room floor or not. I'd say right now, maybe a 65% chance he's still here in New
Okay.
England, being on this team, but that could change. If he comes in, he plays really well the way we saw him play a couple of years ago, he's going to thread that needle right all the way to 100 because when he's on, he's a valuable member of this defense.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at Alabama, and I
Hmm.
was like, "Man, this guy's going to be good."
Yeah.
He was like good, and when he was young. and he just came out of nowhere as a young kid. And then I don't know if it was trying to find the right spot in the NFL for him. Sometimes you get these players, you don't know where to put them. Where's he best play? I mean, DeMarcus Walker's an example of that Florida State kid who's been around for a while, but where is he playing? And, you just don't know where the right spot is for him each year. But Jennings seems to be that type of player, but it took him a couple of years. And now all of a sudden, like you said, last year, he broke out, and the talent's there as a young kid still. So it'll be interesting to see how they go with that one. Okay, right. Let's go ahead and go over your needs, your top needs that you think the Patriots are going to be looking at for free agency and the draft. We don't have to do order. It's up to you. If you have order, you can start at number 1, or you can just give all the top, or you can just give 5 of the top needs, and then we'll go order later. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, well, in terms of order, to me, because it's so much of a need, more so than any other area on this roster, you have to start with the offensive line. This team this year is in need of tackles. I think you can make the argument that they should be looking at both sides. They definitely need a left tackle. Now, right tackle, Caden Wallace, who they drafted last year out of Penn State, came in. A lot of people thought they were going to use him as a left tackle. I was against that from the beginning because I always thought he was more of a right tackle. I thought that was more where he was situated and where he felt at most comfortable. But a lot of the Patriots brass thought that he could move over and maybe play the left because he was versatile enough to do that. Had an injury this year that kept him from the field for the majority of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of rotate him back in to the lineup. I think he's probably your best fit at right tackle with Mike Ueno at right guard. But at the same time, you look at David Andrews, he's getting a little bit older, can't handle everything that he used to. He's going to need solid contributions from the left guard position. I think that's where you'll see Cole Strange come back in and try to be the type of lineman Bill Belichick hoped he would be when he drafted him a couple of years ago in the first round, which still continues to drive Patriots fans nuts. But if you do watch him in the correct setting, you see what he saw in him. And I think that's something Patriots fans are hoping they'll still see from Cole Strange. But the left tackle position was a veritable turnstile this year. Vidarian Lowe, had all the respect in the world for Vidarian and the effort that he put out, but he's not the type of left tackle that can protect the blind side of a young quarterback like Drake May that is known to go off script and that is known to extend plays with his legs and get out and make things happen. It was just too big of a job. And I think in a lot of ways, Drake exposed himself to injury a couple of times this year that maybe wouldn't have been there if they had more capable bodies at left tackle, keeping him clean. So that's priority 1, but they need help all along that line. They need depth at all the guard positions, all the tackle positions. That, to me, is priority 1 for anybody making personnel decisions this year for the Pats.
Does that include like a future center? Maybe a center that David Andrews can groom, or do they believe they have that player on the team?
The interesting question right now is whether or not they believe Cole Strange to be that guy. Maybe he will end up moving over and being the center, and they want to try to get someone in at the guard position, especially on the left side, that can handle more of a versatile type of offense, because Cole is very good at his position when he's playing outside zone. When he's not, he can easily be beat because he doesn't necessarily have the type of skill set to translate. So that's going to be interesting. If the Patriots don't go with an offense that is primarily predicated on outside zone, they want to go with something more versatile or more exotic under like a Ben Johnson, or Mike Vrabel brings in someone that is a little bit more Earhart Perkins type, maybe a Josh McDaniels, who knows? That could be very telltale about how they see Cole moving forward. So I would be very interested to see how they're going to use him and what type of offense they're going to have in there. Jake Andrews is another guy on this team that they drafted fairly high a couple of years ago. He was on injured reserve all year this year. Is he someone that can come in and make an Andrews for Andrews swap, essentially, when David is ready to hand off the baton? All you have to do is change the number. You don't even have to change the name on the back of the jersey, and it'll be a hand and glove fit. That's still very much out there. That is still very much a work in progress, and that's far from being a reality. But those are the types of questions that you may want to see. If the Patriots address the center position in the draft this year, I would tell you that's a pretty good indication that they don't see either Strange or Jake Andrews as the potential successor to David. If they shy away from it or kind of dabble into it, then that may be a very good telltale sign that they believe they have their guy for the future, and they're going to focus more on the guards and the tackles.
Awesome. Yeah, taking a look because I was just going over the research for this position, these positions. I mean, Strange being out. What was the deal with Strange this season? What was the injury?
Patellar tendon, which is
Okay.
not an easy injury to come back from. But when you do come back from it, you are able to utilize, your leg like you
Yep.
normally would have. So
Yep.
when he came back in, he had very good mobility. I think that's one of the reasons why you saw him come back to the lineup this year. They didn't shut him down and keep him on the shelf. Um, I think they wanted to see what he was capable of in this type of offense and maybe showcase him for whoever might be coming in now, to say that, I have my issues, whether or not you believe that was a first round pick or not a couple of years ago. I can show you that I'm worthy of that spot and I'm going to play into it. Cole plays with a chip on his shoulder. He plays with a meanness that the Patriots may need along the offensive line if they're going to try to get aggressive and provide some solid protection for Drake May. So, in my opinion, I'd really love to see what this kid could do with a healthy season. I think it would open a lot of eyes and let Patriots fans see what Cole Strange truly can be.
Yeah. And by the way, what about Brown? So they signed Ben Brown off the
Hmm.
Vegas practice squad in October and makes what, about 10 starts.
Hmm.
Is he just a depth piece?
I say that hesitantly. I think right now he is, but I do believe that Ben came in here and gave them exactly what they needed. They needed a competent center, someone that came in and was able to fill in for David, and able to do the job that the Patriots needed him to do. They simply didn't have someone else on that depth chart that could handle the load when David went down. So Ben came in. I think he did a very admirable job of keeping that center position where it needed to be. As more film became available on him and his tendencies became a little bit more visible, you started to see him break down a little bit. There were some low snaps. There were some times where he looked like he wasn't on the same page as Drake May. Maybe that Drake was moving at a faster pace than his center. You mentioned the relationship between center and quarterback. It's so important.
Yep.
And if there is any type of a crack or a fissure in that, it's going to be very visible on the field. So again, Ben's a guy that if you have room on the roster, you have him willing to come back on a team friendly deal, I absolutely do it because he's proven he can and give you a spot start in situations. But if Andrews starts to pop or if Cole Strange becomes the guy and you want to see what he's capable of, maybe you're better off using that roster spot elsewhere because believe me when I tell you, Craig, the Patriots need every bit of help that they can
Yeah.
get, and it's at a lot of positions.
Yeah, it seems to me that with all the help that they need, that they could do a lot worse than, hey, we got Andrews, we got Strange, we got Brown, and we still have David Andrews starting for
Mhm.
us next year. I think we could wait until 2026 for our center if we feel like we have to go in that direction.
Right.
So probably how they're going to be thinking about it, but who knows? And then Robinson. So I'm talking about Layden.
Mhm.
So he made what, about 9 starts, fourth round rookie. But from what we've seen, or at least what we've heard between Wallace and Robinson, Robinson played a lot more. Both rookies, boy, did they have a hard time at it.
Yeah, they really did. Layden, I think, has a bright future in the
Okay.
NFL, but I still think he's a couple of years away. I still wouldn't even look at Layden as a potential starter this year for the New England Patriots. He's someone that's going to need to learn the nuances of his position. A lot of talent. This kid he anchors strong. He's got quick hands, and you love to see that in a young guard. But in terms of being able to block, recognize coverages, these are things that he's still learning. He was asked to do an awful lot this year as a young player, as a rookie. And I think it became a little bit too overwhelming for him. So give him an opportunity to sit back, maybe learn from someone like a Cole Strange or a Michael Wenu. Those are two guys that you can definitely learn a lot from, and they're good mentors to young players. So have them learn from one of those guys, and then you'll see Layden Robinson, I think, start to come alive. Definitely not superfluous in this case, a solid backup option. If they ask him to do that this year, and that's his primary role, he'll prove his value. I think he's already proven it in some cases, but I think he'll be a lot more valuable knowing that he's a depth piece right now rather than a centerpiece.
So you don't think, or we'll find out in the draft and this offseason, that the Patriots believe that they can count on him as a key reserve next year with the hope that he'll start in 2026. That's something that you don't believe they're going to bank on.
Again, if he comes in and he shows a lot of prowess and he shows a lot of improvement,
Possible.
I think 2026 could be a possibility. But
Okay.
if you're looking at him to come in and start 2025, I say no, I don't think he's ready for that. But 2026 could be a possibility. So
Okay.
again, a lot is going to be determined on how the Patriots see Cole Strange. Are they going to try to put him in at center and maybe
Yep.
have David Andrews take more of a backseat type role, maybe a little bit more of a mentor role, still on the roster, still very much involved, but are we going to see maybe him give way to Cole Strange and maybe David not taking 100% of the snaps? These are a lot of things that the Patriots have to work out. But Layden will be in their plans. I just don't know how soon it's going to happen.
And of course, Jordan made 11 starts. Then he was cut. He wasn't good. City Sow. So he made 13 starts as a rookie, but just one last year. He played in a bunch of games, but did he regress?
I think it was a combination of maybe regressing a little bit and also not being a solid fit within the scheme that Scott Peters and Alex Van Pelt were running here in New England. City was someone who really popped under the Belichickian regime, under Billy O'Brien, and that offense. And because of his hand placement and because of his quickness in being able to move his shoulders, his upper body, he became a pretty valuable member of that Patriots offense. And in my opinion, I thought he had really played himself into a starting guard position. It didn't continue on that way. City continuously started to get beat. He looked like he wasn't necessarily grasping the concept. And toward the end of the season, he became a healthy scratch more often than not. So I'm not sure if he's someone where a new coach comes in and says he was criminally underused last year. We really want to make sure that he's a guy we give a strong look to. Yeah, then I think you'll see City So back. If not, he could be someone that's on the chopping block come roster cutdowns at the end of August. I know a team out there will at least want to take a flyer on him based on his 2023 film.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense because it might just be, oh, you know what, we're going to run the same type of system. It's not going to work out for him here. Let's send him somewhere else.
Right.
And then what about Demontre Jacobs? Because he made a bunch of starts and also struggled.
Yeah. Trey came out and I think played very well for the first couple of starts that he made. He was a newer lineman. There wasn't a whole lot of pro level film on him. And I think he was able to use that to his advantage. Once teams started to learn his tendencies and they started to see the slowness in being able to get into position when a pass rusher, either a linebacker or a defensive end, comes around the corner and they take a wide turn, it was very difficult for Demontre to get into position to start defending these guys. So you start to see a lot of these wide routes being taken to the quarterback, and sacks would happen continuously over and over again. And you start to see Drake May taking hits. That is unfortunately a bad mark against Demontre Jacobs. Do the Patriots look at him and say, hey, look, you know what? He gave us everything he could. We owe it to ourselves to see what he could do potentially as a backup tackle. If Lowe is going to be gone next year and you're not going to re-sign him and you're going to start clearing house in that offensive line, is Jacobs someone that's worth keeping around? A lot of that's going to depend on how he comes in when it comes to OTAs, when it comes to mini camp,
Yep.
even the beginning of training camp. He's a guy that I think the jury is still out on right now.
Okay.
I could see him sticking, but again, if he's cut loose, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, I went off beat on the team needs because we were talking and starting with offensive line, and there was so much to go that I just thought it was important for us to dig deep and find out what in the world went on with this unit last year. And now we know. Okay, let's get back to the rest of the team needs. So team need number 2.
Well, I think I'll placate my fan base for the time being and say wide receiver is definitely,
right.
spot number 2. Look, I know there's a lot of needs on defense, and I'm not neglecting that. I'm actually more of a defensive-minded guy than I am an offensive-minded guy. But you look at what Drake May had around him this year. I made the statement earlier that there's no player on this team that opposing teams have to game plan for, and I stand behind that. The only guy I heard from opposing scouts this year that were a little bit worried when the Patriots came to town or when they were coming in was shutting down Hunter Henry, which is their tight end, their top tight end. And the reason why they were worried about Hunter is because he's a good route runner and he's a comfortable target for Drake May. They felt that if they took away the one comfortable zone that he had, it essentially crumbled the rest of this offense. And in a lot of ways, you can make the argument that that was indeed the case. A lot of times Drake felt he had to take it upon himself, run the ball, and run for significant yardage in order to spark this offense. So what do? You look at the wide receivers around him. A couple of guys popped this year that I really think could make strides in year two with Drake May, and that's Demario Douglas and that is Kayshon Boutte. Demario continues to be a weapon in the slot. The Patriots love employing strong slot weapons. And Demario, I think, is coming into his own a little bit with Drake. There was some growing pains earlier in the season. I think there might have been a little bit of a difficult fit with Jacoby Brissett, not personally, by the way, just professionally, the way they play the game. And I think it took them a little while to get used to Drake. Once they did, you started to see that connection. Kayshon has that explosive ability where he can take the Drake May right away. And these two hooked up for some memorable passes this year. Kayshon's got to learn a little bit of temperance, got to control his burst a little bit. I think he's got to, learn some of the nuances of the pro game again. But this kid is another solid route runner. He's someone that, if he's locked in, can be a very good weapon on a team, maybe even a number two receiver. He has that type of talent. But nobody on this Patriots roster right now has that number one ability. They're either going to have to draft it or they're going to have to, go for it by free agency. But those are the two guys right now that have popped. Everyone else, it's still, the jury is still out on this. They've got a lot of evaluation to do this offseason and into the workout portion of the offseason that's going to start shortly after the draft.
Yeah, I remember, as you can see in the write-up, just reminding you about what. And LSU is so famous for their wide receiver talent in the NFL. And Boutte looked like he's just another one. He's another star coming out. He had the freshman All-American season. And then all of this stuff started with the ankle injury. And then after that, it was weird watching him play in the college game, because it was like, what's going on with this guy? This guy's awesome. How come, you knew the injury and everything. So it was just so, you didn't know what was going on, but you felt, well, sixth round, he felt, well, a lot of times, 9 out of 10, these guys just like, 6 months later, you never hear from them again. But every once in a while, they come back to, or at least come back somewhere near the player they were when he became a player on the scene. And I'm so happy to see that. We're always happy to see players that have fought through it, and he's still got a ways to go. We know that. But this is not anything he does or anything he did this year is not a shock. We know how talented the kid is. It's just a matter of whether or not, where is his ceiling going to be in the NFL, because we know how talented he was in college. That's at one point.
Right. And I think that's exactly where he is right now in the NFL. There's always been issues with drops. How do you work that out? I think he and Drake are going to work out a lot in this offseason. The common thing now is you see these guys working out. They put it on their Instagram. They put it on their social media pages. Yeah, we're getting in work. We're putting in work. Would not shock me to see Kayshon Boutte and Drake May putting in some work together this offseason. If you do, and you're a Patriots fan and you see that, you're going to love that, because you want these guys to get on the same page. That's going to help with drops. It's going to help him with overrunning the route or maybe underrunning some of Drake's passes. Getting used to these guys getting used to each other, Greg, is so important to that growth. And Demario, I think, is another one that's going to continue to be there as well. But when it comes to Polk, when it comes to Baker, I think it's a little quick to give up on these guys. They just drafted them last year. They're under a rookie deal, so you're not, spending an entire exorbitant amount of money to keep them in-house. But I think right now you have to treat it as if these guys are going to be projects. If they pop and they come alive, excellent. If they don't, you may want to, go a different route in another year or two when you have to start making those tough decisions on rookie deals coming to an end. But right now, if I'm building this wide receiver core, the only two must-haves that I have in that room right now Booty and Demario Douglas.
Yeah, be honest with you, I was right there with our lads and their scouts projection. I was very surprised. Maybe the Patriot fan base was as well when Polk was drafted in the second round. And so far, it hasn't really looked good. But Javon Baker, this was a kid that I don't know, after, especially he gets off to a good start in the preseason and everything, this kid's got talent. Just expected a lot more from him this season as a rookie, but we know the wide receiver position is just very tough on rookies. And I would not be surprised if Baker was one of those players that just struggled as a rookie and started to come on and make a big jump in year two.
I tell you what, I really was impressed with Javon. We had an opportunity to speak with him while he was cleaning out his locker on Monday, and he was famous for coming in, especially on the day he was drafted. Really had his first introductory press conference by telephone, by video conference, and came in and said, I'm going to make people in wheelchairs stand up. I'm going to put on a show and get your popcorn ready. And everybody kind of gravitated toward that and said, yeah, this is the type of player we've been wanting. We want that bravado back in the wide receiver core. You didn't see it from Javon this year. You hardly see him get on the field. And when we talked to him on Monday, you heard him much more contrite. You heard him much more disciplined, and I think maybe humbled Javon Baker. And I think that's a good thing because he sounded very focused on coming in this year in 2025 and making a difference in this core. And I think when you see that type of growth, especially in a guy that's noted for his bravado, I think that definitely speaks well of him. He also made it very, very clear that he's never going to stop having self-confidence. He's going to be who he is. But I think he realizes how difficult it is to translate from college to the pro game. And I think with that knowledge now, he's going to be willing to put in the work to get there. So again, if Baker is, working out with those guys this summer, this spring, that's something to keep an eye on as well. If they're starting to build these relationships, it means they're serious about moving forward and proving what they can do on the field this year.
Yeah. So far with the first two picks, I will say this: if I do understand, and I think a Patriot fan knows that, or should know that the biggest need in those first two is, like you said, tackle. But the draft board is not going to say that, right? Because now maybe someone, and whoever's going to make the decision might, I don't know, maybe they fall in love with Banks, someone like that, and say, okay. We'll take him there. We need it. We're going to do it. But one of the two quarterbacks is probably going to go, maybe both of them, before the Patriots pick, which is going to leave the Patriots with some really good options. And one of them is not going to be offensive line, in my opinion, but the other could be, because Ted McMillan is looking like, to me, like he's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember last year going over the Patriots draft and was saying how, because I just all honesty, I mean, if whether or not you know me or not, you can see my thing here. That's a Jet thing. So I'm a Jet fan. So I was praying that the Patriots were not going to get Jaden Daniels. We here at our lads, everybody across the board thought Jaden Daniels was clearly the best quarterback in this class over Caleb Williams. And we all know what happened. And of course it didn't happen. I was relieved. I was, oh, thank goodness. But then I was like, well, I wonder, do they go after quarterback, or is it possible that because they have had so many issues at wide receiver that they're going to look at Marvin Harrison and go, we can't lose with this guy. We got to take this guy. And I started thinking that maybe that's, as much as they need a quarterback, that maybe that's what they're going to do. But they didn't do it. Turns out to be, I still think, the right call. But now there's another chance for that to happen again, because, I mean, this kid just looks like a can't miss superstar wide receiver prospect. And maybe that's what the Patriots do, because again, unless they trade down, he might be the most valuable player there. I know Hunter's a player that's also going to be talked about, but that wide receiver position, as we kind of let off the show, has been such a miss for this organization for so long that they can definitely, you would think they could definitely finish all that negativity in that position by just going after McMillan in this year's draft.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Patriots fans would love to see it. Look, bottom line, they've been long suffering when it comes to wide receiver talent. We've talked about that. We've established that. Now picking at number 4, it makes that thought process of taking the best player available instead of packaging this pick and trading down and trying to maximize draft value that much more palatable. And Tech could definitely be the guy that is the best player available, and he could definitely be someone that the Patriots would love to see paired along with a quarterback like Drake May. You
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head last year, Greg. It was bring in Marvin Harrison Jr., and there were a lot of Patriots fans that wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Problem is, who's he going to throw the ball to?
Yep.
Who's throwing the ball to him was really, I think, the biggest question at that point. Now you've got the guy. You've got the guy that's going to be throwing the ball, and he's going to be in this uniform for a long time. So now give him the weapons. Do they go in the direction of trying to lure a T. Higgins here by free agency? Or do they go with someone like Tet and say, you know what, we're still a couple of years away. Let's build these guys, focus on the infrastructure, and then we can see our young players start to carry us to prominence. A lot to ask of a new head coach, but I think it's going to be interesting, and definitely a lot of big decisions coming for the New England Patriots.
And by the way, I'd probably do both. I'd sign Higgins because I have the money, and I draft Tet because, first of all, I wouldn't trust Higgins to be healthy in the first place. That would be I know you have to hope that he is when you sign him, but I still think if you did both, it's not like we know the talent is potentially there with Douglas and Booty and so forth, but they don't need in 2025 necessarily to be a number 1 or a number 2.
Right.
So they could be just fine as a 3 and a 4. And it just all of a sudden in one offseason, wow, take a look at this. And you add a running back somewhere in the draft as well. By the way, this running back class is so awesome this year.
Yeah.
So, okay, we have 3 more to go. So let's try to get through this as quick as possible because I know we've been doing this for a while. Need number 3.
Need number 3, I would say, is defensive line. A lot of people may be surprised, but I still believe that this New England Patriots team struggled to get after the passer this year. They clearly struggled in defending the run. I know the middle part of the linebacking core could use a little bit of an upgrade, but the defensive line right now continues to prove that beyond Devon Godshaw and beyond Keon White, this team right now is devoid of talent, and a big question mark is whether or not Christian Barmore is going to be healthy enough to play. He had he was out for the most of the year with blood clots, was able to be medically cleared, came back to the field for a few games, and then needed to be removed again because of a relapse in condition. Now, is that just a temporary setback? If it is, and he's able to get back out there without any type of restrictions on his health, then the New England Patriots clearly have a solution there because when he is locked in and he's healthy, Christian is one of the better tackles in this league, defensive tackles. If he's not going to be there and you're worried about his long-term health and his long-term future, that's a big void. And the New England Patriots definitely have to address that either in free agency or via the draft because this team right now, like I said, with the exception of Devon Godshaw, is not getting the type of production they need at that along that line. So they need help there, and I think that trumps any type of need that they would have either at linebacker or in the secondary. And we'll get to the secondary in just a bit.
And look, I think that first of all, we don't even know what they're going to run next year because we don't know who the coordinator is going to be, and maybe they go 4-3. But we don't know. And at this point, with this roster, they could do whatever they want. Right. So that's going to be interesting to see. And let's keep in mind, too, any edge rushers that are available in free agency are usually, the good ones, are already under contract. They don't let good pass rushers go. Right. That doesn't mean you can't find 1 or 2. It's possible. Yep. But there are, look, Abdul Carter's going to be available in the draft. That's going to be another guy that they can go after. You can get probably the defensive interior guys a little bit later. I also love, speaking of New England area, I love the kid from BC. I think that kid, that edge rusher, is going to be a monster in the NFL. Absolutely love that kid. So the options are going to be there for sure. So does that mean that need number 4 and 5 are going to be linebacker and defensive back, or is it going to be corner and safety?
I think it's going to be linebacker and defensive back, in my opinion. I would probably put corner ahead of linebacker right now
Okay.
because I think you need someone opposite Christian Gonzalez that's going to be a solid complement to him on the perimeter. Patriots didn't have that this year. Again, if you bring back Jonathan Jones on the cheap, he's willing to come back and man that slot position. I think that's a great fit. If you decide that Marcus Jones either is too injury prone or not the fit that you need him to be in that slot, Jonathan can fill it. I do believe Marcus can play the position, and I believe he will. So if that's the case, and you're saying to Jonathan, well, it's been real. Thank you for all your contributions, but we're going to go in a different direction. You need someone on that perimeter, and the Patriots simply don't have that right now. One of the big reasons why I think a lot of Pats fans were excited about Travis Hunter was because he can come in, help give Drake May an offensive weapon from time to time, but primarily be the corner that
Oh
Christian
yeah.
Gonzalez needs on the opposite side to really form a very formidable tandem back there in that Patriots defensive backfield. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Mike Vrabel comes in here and the experience he's had under Bill Belichick, who employed those defensive backfields that just simply wore you down each and every game. If he's going to try to recreate that, with a ball hawking type corner on the perimeter to go along with the shutdown style that Christian brings. So that, I believe, is a slightly more prominent need than linebacker, but at the same time, the Patriots need help rushing the passer, and getting someone in the middle that can do both, uh, pass rush and help with the run defense, is going to be something that's very key as well.
Just quickly, what happened? So I know the story of Peppers,
Mhm.
but what's going on there and right now? And then Duggar, what happened to Duggar? Because someone on the outside might go, "Oh, of course, he got his money, and now he has a bad year." Big surprise. We see that a lot. So yeah, what happened to Duggar and also Peppers? Is everything just back to normal, say, or is he still? There's still some things that have to be worked out because he's actually played pretty well the last few years.
Yeah, Peppers is such a key part of what that secondary loves to do. And not only is he a guy that can, get after the passer when he needs to and help in the passing game with defense, but he can get up toward the line of scrimmage. He can play that type of middle hybrid linebacker slash defensive back that can be a force against the run. Part of the reason why the Patriots regressed against the run as well. We talked about Bentley earlier, but Greg, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Jabril Peppers not being in the lineup hurt their run defense as well. That's how good this guy is at being able to help you out wherever you need it. From my understanding, there are still legal matters that are outstanding. We expect answers from those, we expect
Okay.
answers regarding those at some point throughout the offseason. Other than that, right now, they're keeping that pretty close to the vest, other than he was removed from the commissioner's exempt list because of a review of his situation, and he's allowed to practice. So right now, it's status quo with Jabril Peppers. He's out
Okay.
there. He's entitled to be. He's able to be out there, and the Patriots are going to continue to approach it as such. When it comes to Duggar, I think it's a little bit more cloudy because, like you said, fans are looking at it and saying he got his money. He's not doing his. He didn't have to try as hard. Kyle always plays the game with a chip on his shoulder. He remembers all of the scoffing that went on when he was drafted as a Division II defensive back out of Lenoir Rhine. Nobody really gave him the credit of being that type of player that deserved the type of draft capital the Patriots surrendered to bring him in. But I can tell you from personal experience, Bill Belichick said that this kid is one of the hardest workers and most cerebral players he's ever coached. And that's great compliments coming from a guy that's basically seen it all and done it all. I think there were a lot of issues this year that were underlying when it comes to health. And I say injury, not not as other health, but injury
Okay.
related. Kyle looked to be a little bit of a step slower this year. He looked to have difficulty coming out of his stance. There were certain nuances that led me to believe that he may have been a little more banged up than a lot of us thought. So I think injury could have contributed to his downfall. I also think that the secondaries coaches this year just simply did not do him justice, and one of which is Brian Belichick, the safeties coach.
Yep.
I think in a lot of ways in the game planning that they had, because of so many problems that they had up front, that secondary really couldn't be the anchor that they needed to be. It put a lot on Kyle's shoulders, and if you're not feeling up to 100% and you're asked to do more and more and more, and then the Batman to your Robin gets put on the shelf because of off-field issues, it puts a lot on your shoulders. And I think right now, Kyle just had an awful lot that he was dealing with when it came to trying to be everything to everybody on this secondary, but also be able to play his game comfortably. Priority one for me, if I'm a defensive backs coach coming into New England, is going to be taking a look at how Kyle Duggar looks this year. Is he still a step slower? Is he naturally regressing, or was it just a blip on the radar screen? You can't tell until these guys get back out on the
Yep.
field, but my guess is that injuries slowed him a little bit, and that made all the difference in his output.
Well, I mean, and he also, just like we said with Sal, with So, that it could have just been the scheme change. It could have been a new defensive guy that just didn't understand exactly how to play him, because we know he's a special kind of player. But you're right too. I mean, these are things that we don't find out a lot until after the season, and all of a sudden he has surgery, and it's like, well, there you go. So what about also the guys that were behind him at linebacker? Because Mapu and even the rookie, the undrafted rookie Pettis played. I know Mapu. First of all, what happened with him? Because I know he looked like he was taking that next step, and then all of a sudden, the second half of the season disappeared. And then Pettis plays, and it was nice to see. Anytime you get a rookie free agent that comes in and plays, that's a nice story.
Yeah, I think right now with Marte, because his skill set fits so well into the type of defense Bill Belichick liked to run, I think that some of the changes in scheme that you saw this year, maybe even out of necessity, simply trying to distance themselves from what worked the previous year. And again, I'm not saying that worked, but I do think that factored into the decision making, put Marte on the outside looking in. And he is more comfortable playing up toward the line of scrimmage. He's more of a natural linebacker than he is a safety. And I think when they tried to plug him in and exclusively play him at safety, it caused some difficulty in the way he likes to do things. But Marte is an extremely talented player. He's a very smart player. He knows the playbook, and he's able to study it and learn the nuances very well. So toward the end of the season, you started to see him make more and more contributions because he was getting used to this play style and this playbook. He's a guy that I would keep around. You still got him on a rookie deal. I don't think there's any necessity to kind of push him out the door unless you really need the roster spot. Marte is someone that I think can come in and adapt to whatever type of style and scheme that you want to play. So his versatility to me gives him a leg up on the competition. Del Pettis, absolutely you want to keep him around. This kid plays with an attitude, and I say that with the right way. He plays with the right attitude. He plays with a pop, with a force, and with a strength that is needed in that secondary. And he's also playing with a chip on his shoulder. Being an undrafted rookie free agent, he wants to come in and show these teams that passed on him, you should have, given me a look, because I can be an asset here. Look at what I'm doing for a lesser secondary. Imagine what I could be doing for you. So he's showcasing himself. But if the Patriots are smart, they keep this kid in the fold because I think he's got that much leg up on the competition to be a very strong contributor to that defensive backfield. As far as the safeties go, I think they're in better shape this year going into this season than the cornerbacks because I think there's more depth, and I think there's more talent up and down, not just in the starters, but also on the depth pieces as well.
All right. And by the way, you mentioned the linebacker position. And so is there a particular spot at linebacker that you would choose over another? Or maybe even a particular player, maybe in the second round? I don't know if you've done any work yet on that, but we could stick to position.
Yeah, I think the middle right now is probably the area where I would be looking. I think Jennings is someone that can come in and be a solid contributor once again. I think with maybe a reset, maybe a little bit of a deep breath coming back and, gaining a newfound love for the position, I think he can be solid, with his role. Oshane Jimenez, I don't know if it's someone that they're going to look to re-sign. They were very high on him coming out of camp. Looked like he was doing well. He ended up on injured reserve, and the Patriots weren't able to work him back into the lineup. So he could be someone that could come in and help spell Anthony if he's not playing well. Again, Christian Ellis I mentioned earlier, but Jelani Tavai is someone I want to see a little bit more out of this year. He had a great year in 2023 under Bill Belichick, regressed this year. I still believe he's a solid player and a versatile player, someone that can give you contributions from anywhere. So I look for him to be someone to lean on. So that middle part right now, beyond Juwan Bentley, I think is a little bit shaky. That's where the Patriots
Okay.
could use some help.
And also Farms, Jeremiah Farms. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he played a little bit as a rookie, but then really played a lot more this past season. He's even made 5 starts. Did they find something there? Is he a kid that can be a part of the rotation?
Yeah, solid depth piece and can give you a spot start if you're in a jam and you need someone to come in and be able to play. He's giving you now some veteran savvy, which he didn't have a couple of years ago. But this is a kid that continued to claw his way up. Started out as an undrafted free agent, kind of bounced around in and out of the NFL. And when he found his niche here in New England, I think he found a place where he felt he could be at home and where he really could grow. And I think he's done that. One of the hardest workers in that locker room and just really one of the guys that appreciated every single day that he got to come to an NFL stadium and play football for a living. He recognizes just how much of an honor that is. And to me, I think that's worth so much. That can be worth even more than some of the out of the box skill set that a lot of these guys bring to the table. So in my opinion, just for pure attitude alone, I'd love to see Jeremiah come back, but I think he's done enough on the field to warrant that. This is not just a feel-good story. He can play, and I
Okay.
think in the right situation, I think he will be a valuable contributor for this team.
The Patriots, are they set with their punter?
Yeah, Bryce Behringer, I know, had some issues this year, and I think a lot of that was because of poor field position and some difficulties that were had elsewhere. But this kid has got a great leg. His accuracy has been excellent. Yeah, he's definitely been a keeper. I don't see them making a move at punter. I think Bryce has been great, and he'll continue to be good.
And then Sly, though, they definitely have to look at a place kicker. Do you
Yeah.
think they'd look free agency first? Is it possible? I know they've had a lot of young kids in here lately that haven't worked out.
Yeah, I think they do go veteran in this response, Greg, simply because once bitten, twice shy. The Justin Rohrwasser fiasco did not work out the way they had hoped. He never took a meaningful snap up here in New England. Chad Ryland gave it a go for a year, and he's now in Arizona, actually not doing too bad,
Yeah.
considering, but he wasn't the answer here in New England. I think they give a look at Joey Sly. I think they'll give him every opportunity to come in and compete for the job. But again, if you're going to make sure that you want a reliable kicking game alongside of Drake May, I think you owe it to whoever comes in to give you that they want to give a look to and try to see if they can upgrade there a little bit. I think Joey had good moments this season, but there were moments where he missed some egregious kicks that need to be addressed. So now the New England Patriots, I think, find themselves in need of one. That will be an area that I think they dip into some veteran help for this year.
Maybe they bring Nick Folk back.
A lot of people up here would love it. They would love to see Nick come back up here. He was very well liked in New England.
It amazes me how these kickers, guys like Folk can be around so long and they can be really productive. And it's like, well, they're not very expensive. Why
Right.
don't you just keep them here? But it happens a lot. We see a lot of these kickers that they just go from here to there and they keep kicking well. And, teams just feel like they could always find someone better or younger, usually is the deal. We got to go younger. And then that's, I'm sure, the reason that they did, and it didn't work out. So anyway, all right. So Mike, thanks for the extra time. Again, I haven't been able to catch up on really getting inside information with the Patriots organization in a couple of years, and that's why I wanted to pick your brain. I know it's a very big spot in the draft, and there's a lot of people thinking trying to figure out what's going on with the Patriots. So as I let you go, I've got to put you on the spot. Is it going to be Vrabel or Ben Johnson?
Ooh, in terms of who I would choose,
Sure.
I might upset some of my fan base when I might upset some of my listeners when I say this as well. I go Ben Johnson. I think that his ability to work with Drake May is something that's so intriguing to me. I think watching these guys grow year after year would be something I would love to watch. But if you're asking me who I believe will get the job, I think it's going to be Vrabel, because I think right now the Patriots are looking for that experience. And I think they're looking for someone to come in and kind of get this organization back to what it was a few years ago. And that's even the last few years under Bill Belichick. I think that you look at Belichick post Brady, and that really kind of is the line of demarcation that the Patriots want to go back to. They want to bring some edge back to this position, but I think they also want a guy that can come in and be innovative. And if he is going to be innovative, I think it's going to be the coaches that surround him that are going to help him do that. So I would go Ben Johnson, but I think the Patriots go Vrabel here.
Hey, I'm actually surprised that the fans are siding towards Vrabel, not because I don't get it, but I mean, it seems like everybody wants Ben Johnson. And because he's the new, sexy, shiny, offensive genius kid on the block.
Yep.
But then again, Vrabel, he's got that legacy and he's got experience. And I'm not surprised by that either. So, again, we started the show by talking about how the Patriots can't lose. If it's Vrabel or Johnson, whichever way they go, fans are going to be pretty happy overall with exactly what they get, and then move on to signing players and then to the draft. So we're going to have links in the description of this video. Mike's going to make sure that he gets me all the necessary links that I can post in the description area, so you can find out everything you want to know about Mike's coverage of the Patriots with a simple click of the links. And then we look forward to maybe getting an opportunity to talk to you after the draft, Mike, unless, of course, something major happens that we're unexpecting between now and the draft. But it's great talking to you. You did a great job, and I really appreciate your time.
Greg, thank you so much for having me on. It was an honor, always a privilege. Thank you for enduring me. I can be long-winded, and I appreciate that. But no, all kidding aside, anytime you need me and you need Patriots information, I'd be more than happy to come on. You always do a great job. Big fan of all the work that you guys do at Our Lads. And yeah, it'll be my honor to come back and visit you after the draft or beforehand if the need be. I'll be available.
That sounds great. Thanks, Mike. We'll look forward to talking to you when we do. And thanks, everybody, for checking us out. Don't forget, we already have 3 other offseason interviews regarding teams looking forward to their particular offseason, the Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals. So this is another one of our interviews. We're going to do all 32 teams, and we'll look forward to talking to Mike again here real soon. So for Mike, I'm Greg, and we'll see you next time.